Welcome to P6 Online Learning with Sreesovitz School. All lessons and exercises are taken from Family and Friends, Class Book 6 and Workbook 6. And welcome to today's lesson where we are going to learn how to use the following modal verbs. Have to, don't have to, should, shouldn't, ought to, ought not to, must, mustn't. And you can find all the exercises we are going to do today in your class book, Unit 9, page 87. And let's start today's lesson by reading and listening to the information which is at the top of page 87.
Listening 80. Listen and read. What is the information for?
Trekking in the jungle. Information. Advice. You should wear light clothes and strong boots. You should also wear a big hat, as the sun is very hot in the jungle. You shouldn't bring valuable possessions, such as jewellery, but you ought to bring a camera, because you will want to take lots of photos. Rules. You must stay with your guide at all times. Do not walk into the jungle on your own. You mustn't pick up or touch any animals. Some of these will be dangerous. What to bring? You don't have to bring any food, but you have to bring a water bottle. Drinking water is very important when it's hot.
And the information was for trekking in the jungle. Trekking is a journey, normally on foot, like hiking. Now, in the information which we just heard and read about, which was for trekking in the jungle, there were several modal verbs being used. And we're going to look at those modal verbs now. And modal verbs are helping verbs. They give more information to the main verb used in a sentence. Let's look at the ones we have here. Now, we use have to and don't have to talk about something that is necessary or unnecessary. If something is necessary, you need to do it. If something is unnecessary, you don't need to do it. And the sentence from the trekking information was, you don't have to bring any food, but you have to bring a bottle of water. In the trekking information, there were also some rules. And when we talk about rules, we use the modal verbs must and mustn't. In the information, it said you must stay with your guide at all times, and you mustn't pick up or touch any insects or animals. They also offered some advice in the trekking information. Advice is something you say to people to help them, and the modal verbs they used when offering advice were should, shouldn't, ought to, and ought not to. They said you should wear light clothes and strong boots. They said you shouldn't bring valuable possessions. They also said you ought to bring a camera and you ought not to bring jewellery. That was the advice that they offered. Okay, I'd like you now to do exercise 3 on page 87. Read and circle. Read the sentences and circle the correct modal verb. Okay, let's check the answers. Number 1 was already done for you. You must switch off mobile phones at the cinema. This is a rule. Number 2, you should listen to instructions in class or you won't understand. Number 3, it's a rule. So you mustn't talk when the teacher is talking. It's very rude. Number 4, you don't have to be at school 10 minutes early, but it's a good idea. And number 5, my mum says I shouldn't stay up late on school days because I'll be tired. Now you have to write sentences with must, mustn't, and don't have to. Look at the Milford Tennis Club rules. Number 1, pay before the game. Number 2, wear tennis shoes. Number 3, take any equipment home. Number 4, eat on the courts. And number 5, you can bring your own racket or use one of ours. So you have to write sentences with must, mustn't, and don't have to. Number 1 is done for you. You must pay before the game. Write the answers in your notebook. Okay, here come the answers. Number 1 was done for you. You must pay before the game. Number 2, you must wear tennis shoes. Number 3, you mustn't take any equipment home. Number 4, you mustn't eat on the courts. And number 5, you don't have to bring your own racket. So just to recap on today's lesson and the modal verbs we learnt, we use the modal verbs have to, don't have to, with things that are necessary or unnecessary. We use the modal verbs should, shouldn't, and ought to and ought not to when we are offering advice, and we use the modal verbs must and mustn't with rules. And that's all from today's lesson. There is a worksheet that goes with this lesson to help you practice what we've learned today. So keep practicing your English and hopefully I will see you very soon. Thanks very much. Goodbye.